Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Autism Insights. I'm your host, Bill Locke. Who would have guessed that a rock and roller named Kevin Mulligan would be diagnosed with autism later in life? That diagnosis made a big difference in his understanding his early life and his later years. Meet Kevin. Enjoy his story and his music.
My first, professional job was as a musician, and I played in bands on the road for about 17 years. And then in town for many years after that. I still play, but for fun now. But there came a point where I knew I had to get a real job. The life of the artist is not financially secure, let's just say. And so I got a job at a car dealership, and then I thought something better than this, and I called up SAIT, and I stumbled on the power engineering department. I got into that, and I was hired at the Stampede as a junior engineer. Ended up becoming a refrigeration mechanic, then chief engineer, then park maintenance manager. And I went back to my roots, and for the last 5.5 years, I've been a senior building operator. So that's kind of my path. I've also run a greenhouse business with my wife. We still have a garden design company. Things like that. I write stories. I've had some published stories, I think 5 of them. And I've taught writing classes. So, just a lot of the artistic stuff like that. Oh, how did I find out I was autistic? Oh, man. Well, that's kind of interesting. My life has had periodic upheavals, and I'm actually married for my 3rd time, and this is the last time. It's been about 14 years now. But I was going into a typical upheaval, and I thought, it's got to be me. There's something about me. And I ended up talking to a counselor who sent me to a psychologist who gave me the opinion that I was probably, at that time, Asperger's. It wasn't official. So I looked it up, and the more I read, the more I'm like, wow, does this ever make sense? And after that, I had peace of mind, and I knew where I was at. But with that knowledge came a feeling that I wanted to do something. And that's when I started to look for a way to pay back and help others with my experience. And that's when I found Autism Calgary, and it's just gone from there, going to meetings, volunteering for stuff, and here I am now.
When you talk about the light going on, and that there was sort of this epiphany, I guess, what was it that stuck out that was illuminating for you?
Some of the traits, I suppose, repetitive behaviors. Like, I like to do things the same way all the time. I like rules. I like technical concepts, numbers, math. I remember numbers from when I was a kid. I just never thought about it. Saying things that made people angry. I've done that my whole life. I don't do it now. I've learned how not to, but for many, many years, I would say things and people would get mad. I could never figure out why. And I remembered back when I was younger, I was very, very shy. I remember I couldn't look at people, things like that. Honestly, I don't really know what prompted me to dig into the real world and get a life. but I did. And so that's what it was, just seeing kind of the markers of autism and realizing that I'd been displaying them my entire life. And I just thought it was the way that I was brought up as a kid. I thought, it's my upbringing and that's where I get my attitude from. And once I knew where it was actually coming from, it made everything a lot easier. I stopped kicking myself for messing up, and I knew the areas where I might be at danger of messing up. Uh, so that's kind of how I figured it out.
So you discovered these things about yourself. You grew in self-awareness. Okay, it's one thing to note, okay, I'm like this. It's quite another thing to bring about some changes. How did you address those things?
I had a bit of a motivation because I had a really good life and I wanted to keep it that way. I had grandchildren at that time and my kids are growing up. I built something with my wife and I wanted to keep it that way. So I was motivated. That motivated me. Uh, I didn't want it to go the way everything else always had. I wanted to smooth sail for just a while. Yeah. So that made me change. And also at nature, I'm competitive. And I think that had something to do with it. I wanted to compete with my tendency to make errors that cause difficulties. So I think that had something to do with it. Who knows, a lot of factors, but if I had to pin it down to one, is I had a life I liked finally, and I was being successful and I wanted to keep that. I just didn't feel like starting over again. I'd done it enough and I didn't want to do it again.
So you're highly motivated. You knew that at that stage of your life, it was time to get to it. Did you get some help to, figure out ways to respond differently? Like, did you have someone who counseled you, who advised you about this?
I didn't, and I wish I would have. That's kind of what I'm trying to do now. I did it on my own. Most of the counseling I suppose I got is when I started going to the group meetings at Autism Calgary. I didn't contribute tons. I mean, I did some, but hearing about the struggles of other people and some of the reasons why we do and think like we do, some of the techniques that have been used to improve, I think by osmosis, I helped myself by forgiving myself, I think. And I just went with a path that brought me more happiness. Once I knew why I was like I was, I wanted to embrace it. Like my whole life, I looked for where I would fit in. I always thought, well, maybe I've got some genetic background that I'm unaware of, and maybe I should be in that group of people. And I always thought, well, there's got to be a group of people out there I fit in with. I couldn't figure it out. And as illogical as it seems, thinking I might have had a heritage of some other culture or something, I could never find the culture in it, but I found it now. The group that I primarily lead, like I'm not the only one, there are three of us. Actually, I did my first solo meeting, it was this week on Tuesday. But that group is from all across the province. There are some people that attend the Calgary meetings, but all different kinds of people. There's students, professionals, other people that are having a bit more challenges, just all kinds. And we all meet and our concerns come up. There have been a few times where we've made a breakout room and I'm the person they send there. I talk to them. Sometimes someone comes with me. So mostly I'm there to help out, to encourage people, to give answers that aren't direct commands, more suggestions, share stories of things I've done. So that's what I'm doing right now.
And what impact do you think that's having on other people?
I think it's having a big impact. That the group in general, I know what it did for me. It gave me confidence, gave me something to believe in. Actually, it's hard for me to believe how much I like being involved, because the history of my life has been to achieve milestones, but there hasn't been a lot of joy in it. It's just been a technical pursuit with an end goal, and then the reward, and then the next step. But this one, I can't put my finger on it, but I actually want to do it. I like doing it. And I can see the other people in the group, especially if they've been there a few times, they start to change, they get more confident. They start to talk to each other. Some of them have become friends. It is definitely making a difference.
So this is an interesting time, isn't it, Kevin? This is a time when a lot of people are isolated. It's really hard to work. It's really hard to be involved in the community. Okay. And people have struggles of all different kinds. They have mental health struggles. They have financial struggles.
Yeah, you pretty much named all of it. I mean, any kind of struggle you can think of, we've got in our group, and it's prevalent, I think, throughout our country right now. There's a lot of struggles, and the autistic people are the same. They've got an additional burden that they lack confidence because they've never really quite fit in. And so it's an extra hurdle to get over. So, I'm glad if I can lower the hurdle a little bit, or encourage, then that'll make it better, because there are a lot of productive, very good people in our group that just don't have the confidence to go and do what they need to do to get to where they want to be. I think my first tip would be get involved with an autism association wherever you live. Get involved, even if you don't want to. It's your first step. Once you're in there, you're going to have colleagues, peers, support. It'll be non-judgmental. You'll get ideas, like I already said, support, but you'll get a lot of support. Strategies. Yeah, you need to find your tribe. That's where it's at. It's at the Autism Association. So I would say do that first. Other than that, I'd say believe that you have value, know that you can overcome. It doesn't feel like you can, but you'd be surprised if you try something, whether you fail at it or succeed. Once you've tried it, it's no longer behind a curtain, and you can see it. And now it won't scare you nearly as much. It'll lose its power over you. Then you can proceed to improve your life.
That's it for episode 1 of season 2. I'm your host, Bill Locke.